Well, I've just returned from the UK, been over there for 7 weeks of holiday and visiting family, and of course the real reason we went to the UK was for the birth of our first grandchild. But 7 weeks was a big trip, and when I went away I had a nagging question in my mind: how was I going to stay carnivore, and how would I continue my morning routine that had become so significant to me in my journey on the carnivore diet. So they were the two challenges that I had in mind when I left for the UK. We've only been home just 3 or 4 days now and slowly adjusting to life back here in Australia. It's winter here and we left a glorious summer in England, and hence me sitting by the fire today instead of being outside. But I wanted to talk to you today about the trip and how I got on, particularly in relation to the carnivore diet and my morning routine. The trip was very complex in some ways, in that every week for 7 weeks we were doing something different. Sometimes we were staying in private homes, often family members or friends. Other times we were in Airbnbs. Sometimes we were travelling by car for whole days at a time to get from one end of England to the other. We had to eat in restaurants. We had to try and get takeaway meals on the run. So there were very many challenges that we had to think through in staying carnivore. Let me break those down a bit. Sometimes I said we were in people's homes, and oftentimes the meals were prepared by the people that we were staying with, and we didn't always get a big say in what was going to be cooked for the meal. And so sometimes we ate meals that we wouldn't normally have eaten, but in order to be polite to our hosts, we would eat the food that was prepared for us. When we stayed in Airbnbs, we would usually try and select an Airbnb that had a kitchen in it so that we could cook our own food. Now, we discovered that this worked very well for breakfast. We could cook egg and bacon quite easily in most Airbnbs and be set for the day. The problem was, however, that our second meal that we usually have is often around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And usually on these Airbnb stays, we weren't back at the Airbnb early enough to cook our own meal. So that meant that we had to have meals out. So when we had meals out, we would eat in restaurants. Now, restaurants in the UK are very expensive, almost twice the price of what we'd pay for a meal here in Australia at a restaurant. And so we tried to keep this to a minimum, but we found that generally in restaurants, you could order a meat-based dish. Whether or not we had a few veggies with it varied from time to time on what the menu was like and how we were feeling. But we did try and stay meat-based, but occasionally we had menu items that were not essentially carnivore at all. One of the bigger challenges was when we were out for the day and we're just in a town somewhere or a village somewhere and we want to get something to eat. We don't want to eat in a restaurant. We want to just pick something up and eat it on the go. And we found that was probably the most challenging of all, because in that type of food that you buy to eat hot on the site almost, it was very difficult to stay pure carnivore, and so we had a few slip-ups there as well. So did we stay pure carnivore? Well, the simple answer is no, although we tried to stay as close as we could for the majority of the time. There were also celebrations that we attended while we were away. There was birthday parties and of course the birth of our grandchild. There was the UK Father's Day, which was another gathering of people, and just like they do here, all the gatherings involve food. And so on these occasions we would try to eat the more meat type dishes, but we didn't always have a huge say in what was being served, and so sometimes there again we ate food that was not carnivore. The other aspect of this trip that was challenging for me was trying to maintain some sort of morning routine. And I soon found out that when you're traveling, that gets very difficult, particularly at home here. I have a morning routine that takes me almost 2 hours to get through, and we didn't always have the time, and we didn't always have the facilities that were required for all of that morning routine. But we did do a lot of walking. I think we walked something like 250 kilometres throughout our 7 weeks in the UK, or what's that, about 150 miles. And we walked pretty much every day. Particularly, we spent a couple of weeks up in the Lakes District where we walked every day, usually around a lake, and it was tremendous exercise in that way. We're also able to do some barefoot walking, some earthing, but not as much as I do here at home. When it was convenient and when there was a good grassy area, yes, we'd take our shoes off and enjoy that, but that wasn't always possible. Part of my morning routine here at home is to have a daily sauna each morning, and of course that was not possible in the UK. I think in the 7 weeks I had one sauna. We were at a beach somewhere and there was somebody who had set up a portable sauna on the beach, and for a few pounds you could go in and have a sauna in their portable sauna, and then presumably a plunge in the ocean that was right next to the sauna. And so I did that. I had that one sauna and a cold plunge. Now, when it comes to cold plunges, obviously I didn't have an ice bath, but I did endeavour to have a cold shower each morning. After my hot shower, I would just simply turn the hot water off and have a couple of minutes of cold water each morning. The other thing I was able to do, as I mentioned, was that occasionally I was able to have a swim, a wild swim. I had 3 wild swims while I was in the UK. These were all up at the Lakes District in the lakes there, and would find a spot there to swim, and often the water was coolish and but not particularly icy cold, although on the third one it was much colder than the other 2, and so I'm going to count those as cold plunges. So I guess I didn't really stay true carnivore, although we made a fairly good effort to stay as close as we could, and I did some of my morning routine but not all of it. Now, what was the result of this on my body? That was what I was interested in, and I'd have to say that yes, I did feel less energy. Now, that might be partly due to the cracking pace we were setting. For 7 weeks, we never had a day off. We were on the go, out the door early, walking for many kilometres or miles each day, and coming back at the end of the day, talking to family. It was very, very active 7 weeks. So when I say the energy levels were down, it could be partly due just to the pace that we were maintaining on the holiday, but I do think that I had less energy than on what I would normally have, and that was probably because of the things that I was eating. I also noticed that my mental clarity, my alertness that you have on carnivore was not quite the same. It was still pretty good, but it was a noticeable difference because we were not absolutely pure carnivore on the trip. A more serious concern was that for many years, for probably 30 or 40 years, I've had arthritis pain in my fingers that got quite severe at times, but that disappeared completely on carnivore. But I noticed in England there was a couple of days towards the end when I was starting to feel those tinges of pain in my fingers again. So again, I suspect that was because of what I was eating. Of course, when I got home just a couple of days ago, one of the things I wanted to do was to kind of get a damage report, particularly on my weight, to see if I had put on any weight. I suspected that I had put on a little bit, and when I weighed myself, I was 2.8 kilos heavier than when we left for England. So that was a weight gain of 2.8 kilos, or about 6 pounds, over 7 weeks. So I wasn't too disappointed there. I thought it could have been more, but 2.8 kilos, and already in the couple of days we've been home, I've taken off one of those kilos and just got a bit more to go. So I'm pretty confident I can adjust the weight pretty quickly back to where I was before we went away. As regards my YouTube channel, the Carnivore Pensioner, I did put up a video each week while I was away, and many of you would have seen some of those videos. Now, I recorded those videos back here in Australia before we left, and so I had a bit of a bank or a reserve of videos to put up just in case I didn't get time to make videos on the run, on the holiday, and of course wanting to spend as much time enjoying England and enjoying family as I could and not have to worry about editing videos. What really surprised me, however, was that one of those videos that I put up towards the beginning of the trip absolutely blew up, is the term that they use on YouTube, when you get far more views than what you expect. And on that particular video, I normally get anywhere between 500 and 1,000 views on YouTube. That particular video went all the way up to 97,000 views. Now that kind of blew me away, and particularly when you think about that, you know, YouTubers talk about views. I like to talk about people. You can call them views, but I say that's 97,000 people that listened or watched that video. Now that was staggering to me. I couldn't even get my mind around that. I've been hoping this last week it would tick over the magic 100,000, but it has slowed right down. That video was entitled "I Was Warned About Carnivore," if you wanted to check it out. But one of the things that really impacted me about that video was that it had about 1,300 comments. Now that's a lot of comments for my channel anyway. And I did endeavour to reply to every comment, so that kept me busy for some time each morning and evening, keeping on top of the top comments that came in. But what I found with these comments is that about 2/3 of the comments were people telling their story. Often just a paragraph or two, but people would share with me their carnivore story. And the stories were all compelling and engaging, and it reminded me again of the power of stories. Every person has a story, and your story is absolutely powerful. You see, if I tell you my opinion, you could disagree with me and argue with me. But when I tell you my story, you can't argue with that. Stories are powerful and compelling, and here were, you know, several hundred people in the space of a couple of weeks telling me their story about their journey on carnivore, that would often include maybe their age, what their health problems were, their mistreatment and abuse by the medical system and their disappointment in that. Some people would tell stories of attempting to fix their problems with other diets that were only a short-term fix that never worked, and then discovering the carnivore diet, and people sharing things like weight loss and reversing diabetes and a whole host of medical conditions. And it just inspired me again that we are doing this, that there are people all over the world changing their life and their destiny because of the carnivore diet. And that excited me tremendously. Sometimes with this journey, you can get a little bit down, a little bit depressed, thinking we're never going to win this, there's too many odds against us. But when you see these stories, and they're not just one or two, but there are hundreds, literally thousands of these stories coming out of people who have changed their lives, you think, yeah, we are changing the world one life at a time, and that excites me greatly. You know, while I was in London, I was very keen to get some of the people who subscribe to my channel and in my Facebook group, The Carnivore Pensioner, together with a bit of a meet-up. And so we selected a restaurant and we met in London just over a week ago now, so it's not that far back and very fresh in my mind. But it was a fantastic day. We had a whole bunch of people come together at a restaurant. We ate meat together. We told stories. We shared together. Many of us knew each other by name, but we'd never met in person. And it was just a tremendous time. And it was a reminder again of how wonderful this carnivore community is. And I want to say thank you to all the folk in London who were able to get there. And I know that there were many that wanted to be there but couldn't get there because of work commitments or whatever it was, and some people missed out, but so glad that we were able to do that, and it was a real highlight of the trip for myself. So I've come home and discovered that my YouTube channel is now 12 months old. It's just on a year since we started, and what an incredible year it's been. Both my own journey on carnivore and doing this channel and recording over 200 videos, would you believe, in the space of a year. Worked hard on this, and just now beginning to see that breakthrough with people watching in far greater numbers. That's been very satisfying. So I want to press on. I want to continue to be a friend on the road, a guide, a cheerleader, if you like. I'm not a doctor, but I want to get alongside you. I want to be with you on the road. I want to encourage and inspire people, especially in their later years, well, people over 50, on this journey to keep on keeping on and to change their lives, and as they get opportunity to share their story and impact the people around them. I've also wanting to come back and to do some more live events here in Melbourne, particularly on the carnivore theme, thinking about maybe some dinners with some carnivore speakers, and also some day retreats, and maybe in time a weekend retreat when we get a few key people together and we talk about all things carnivore together, and we learn and grow together, and I'm very excited about that. So if you're in Australia and in Melbourne, let me know that you're interested in those things, and we can include you, and you can have a voice into the planning of those. But that's just a snapshot. I wanted to say thank you again for your tremendous support. To know that we've gone over 8,000 subscribers now, and we've had all these views while I've been away. The support is encouraging. The stories are phenomenal. It's something I love doing, and I'm going to press on in this because I really believe we can change this world one life at a time. So keep following me. Join our Facebook group. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I would love to see you on the next video. In the meantime, you keep telling your story to everyone who will listen. God bless you, and thanks for watching.